How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Not that much. I feel like it'd be less than you expect. Why does the pin message show up on the bottom and not the top? That's actually terrible UI. Jesus Christ. YouTube, oh my god, I hate the trend of things on websites being redesigned for no reason other than to pay someone on the team. Is my alert gonna fucking work or no? I guess not, because the bot is in here or something. Jesus. I wish this was like Twitch, where I could start the stream and have like a starting soon screen and like let people pull in. But it's not. And by people I mean my fucking chatbots, because they take a bit. You know, and making the stream public, until you hit go live, they won't join your stream. Which is, I don't know if that'll ever be fixed. I know that YouTube doesn't really care about their live API that much. And I'm pretty sure if, pardon me, if devs could, they would, but, you know, I don't know. I'm just talking out the ass. Nonetheless, thanks for the resub. Again, I wish this was like Twitch, where I would, you know, see how many months every time. And even if I had the alert, it would just say, Kirby's ass became cultured or something. But there is an icon that changes for like the increments of months, and that's supposed to be spinning. But of course, it shows up as a GIF in your YouTube editor, but not as a GIF like in the chat itself, which, again, what's the point? You store it as a GIF anyway. You're not saving any bandwidth here. Like, I don't get it. Or like saving site storage, which I'm pretty sure is the idea. Do I have to fucking tell the chatbot to join manually again? I think I do. This fucking stupid shit. Every single time. Not every time, the past 2 times, which might as well be every time. I hope everyone's weekend was went well. My birthday was okay. You know, I got the gift of some traction on the song that I put out on my birthday. Which is cool, I guess, but it also means that the already neutered growth that the EP that I released was getting has been further neutered, because like, hold on, let's see if turning it off and on again will just work. It worked last time. There it is. Bro just popped up on my feed. Well, welcome. I'm breaking down a song today, one that I don't particularly like, but I released it anyway. And that might make you question why even drop it if you don't like it. Like, usually I'm pretty good about not putting out stuff that I don't quite believe in. Oh my god, it's Arda. I wondered why that name was familiar. Hello. Why? I don't think this is your speed. Happy belated. Yeah, thanks. Fucking 23 now. It's terrible. But like, whatever. But yeah, just scrolling through IT and saw me on the feed. Yeah, it makes sense, I guess. But no, I put it out just because, like, I don't know, at the time I thought it was alright. And the second half definitely carried the first half. The answer to that is no. And I'd prefer if you talked about less doxable things in my chat. Just, you know, have an online presence. The on and on guy died. That's a really funny way to phrase it. But yeah, Oliver Tree died in a helicopter collision accident, which is like fucking crazy how that even happens. Reason 7,000 to never get on one of those death traps ever in my life. For no reason. Even if it's like offered for free or something, like that's worse, arguably. It's like, for the love of the game, they just want to see me go down. Like, what the hell? But at the time I thought the song was good, and then I released it, and then I you know, over time I'm like, wait, this actually kind of sucks. It was meant to be like an inspired track from like Dilf Repellent. But then I used during Pride Month section like the dumbass footwork, and it became a hodgepodge of different things. The second half is way more fun than the first. and I don't know. It also has, I think, the least amount of traction on the EP too. Like the least amount of anything really. Least plays, least likes, least comments, least reposts. I think it's at like 1 repost, which is sad. Which is sad statistics because my shit usually doesn't flop that hard. But it's way more than the second time Kirby's asked something like that happened. You know, helicopters are known to kill famous people. It's just the second time in recent memory that it happened. You know, which makes you think, why even go? But whatever. We don't know the details. People keep on trying to speculate that like he owed someone money or something, and he like had to go or whatever. Like it was some sort of hit, or there was some sort of foul play. I don't know. But it is bizarre that like 2 of them crashed into each other. Maybe the weather was turbulent, but then like, why go out? How many channels are in this project? Would this be a channel? I mean, I guess, because these are both called tracks despite being different. 52 is the answer, which for me is kind of low. Usually, like, my more thought out and developed tracks have like 80 something. Or like in the 90s, but this one's a bit more minimal. Because it is, like, I kind of like bullshit my way through most of it, except for the ending, which I liked, actually, which is why I put some effort towards it. But, that being said, let's go ahead and give it the old start to finish, you know, ceremonial. Do like to stream if you're here. Hitting that button is, I think, beneficial to the algorithm in some way, shape, or form. I think it's more beneficial to just, like, you know, stick around and, you know, chat and stuff, because chat activity is seen as like, whoa, this stream is really popular. Pardon. Wasn't it nighttime when it happened? No, I saw a video. It was just overcast. It was not nighttime. I don't think so, at least. But yeah, of course somebody put that shit on Twitter like the moment it happened, because of course, right? But without further ado, it's geez, what year is it? Oh, it's fake? Then it was probably nighttime. Yeah, okay. It's kind of, I'm just so whatever about this entire track, except for, like, from here on out. You know, all of this is just so, I don't know. But, well, let's commence the breakdown. As always, we go left to right, top down, section by section. The last part is a bit eh. Well, it's my favorite because I'm Dominican, and it's for Dominicans. And if you're not Dominican, then you won't get it. So, I think everything else has been eh, which is where we culturally differ. So, What's it called? This entire track was basically an excuse to sample this. So I know we go top down, but it's important.
What?
Just a San Holo song that I used to listen to as a kid a lot. Definitely no Fulcrum Does Nitrous. Sure. What is even the second drop for that? I hate the second drop to Fulcrum Does Nitrous, actually. I remember every time I hear it, I'm like, I didn't do this the way that I wanted it to. It just doesn't sound quite right. Isn't he like homeless? I don't know if he's homeless, but I know that he started doing Nitrous. And being more of a dickhead towards the general people that he would like fuck with, I guess. I don't know. I stopped watching him, well, when he started being just kind of weird. Sound Hello, Good Taste, 2016. See, we got a knower in chat. Let's go. I used to listen to a lot of just whatever was popular in the EDM space in like the 2010s. I was one of those kids who didn't listen to rap. I think Angel topped it. Also for me too. It's just a way better song through and through. And that one was a remix of specifically the Shipwreck remix of Inside Out by the Chainsmokers, which is not on his SoundCloud anymore, but I think it's because he did it with somebody else and like it's a whole rights thing. I don't know. Whatever. But this starts with a Someone Out of Town sample. You know. Who is this stranger? That fucking shit. Good song. SD Kid Chainsmokers remix, lol. We clipped the shit out of it, put a songwriter on it, obviously. I was feeling very lazy this track. Just like, go start to finish, do the simplest, dumbest shit possible, and just kind of get it done. Which is why I'm so indifferent about it. Sometimes those tracks are like bangers, and I just nail it, and most of the time it's like, yeah, whatever. But at the time I was, you know, kind of alright about it. The more music you make, the worse your taste gets sometimes. And I was just making a lot of music at this time, and I was just like, yeah, this is good. And then we EQ it to like, you know, justify it. Nothing super complicated so far, you know. And then we get to the vocal chops. So, there's a lot of shit going on for some reason, like automation clips that mix in later. But we'll get to them later. So, we start things off, of course, with a soundgardizer. It's just a very cheap way of bringing it to volume. Normally, I'd put this patcher preset on. Where is it? That I would like, you know, single band EQ, multi-band bit crush, and do all this stuff to really like process the vocals properly, but I didn't feel like it, straight up. And so, Soundgardizer, Biggie Boy the Anniversary next year, I can't wait. And then I put this little plug-in thing on it, which is just making it a little bit louder and kind of crunchy at the top end of the volume. And I know there's like some popping, because I don't cut it at a zero crossing properly or whatever. But again, this is one of those tracks where I'm just like, fucking, fuck it, just fuck it. Bit crush. EQ. Just bringing up the sibilance, so like it gives the impression that it's still crispy, but getting rid of all the unnecessary high end and like the really loud shit. At least for the intro. I start bringing it back later, I think, somewhere fucking louder. Yeah, but that's a surprise mouse tool, right? And then, because I'm feeling super lazy, we're going with the car crash to start things off. And that's my way of fading it out while maintaining the bass. I just automate a low pass. You know, so it sits in the mix nicely. It just kind of disappears, which is nice. And I'm pretty sure if I'm right... Wait, nope. Yeah, I like cut it right when the bass actually hits, so it's not like delayed sounding. Because even if I'm not trying, I'm still a nerd. And then you gotta put that like as far in the right ear as possible without putting it straight up in the right ear. Because a lot of the time I get pretty like anal about something being hard pan left or hard pan right, but you grow out of it sometimes. It depends on the track, and this is the track where I definitely could have hard panned it right, but I just chose not to for some reason. And it's dry as hell, just a fucking high pass on that. And then... oh yeah, right, there's this fucking... this stupid ass shit, which I'm pretty sure is also just dry. Oh, well, there's some high end on there. And then... whatever this is... it's just a snare fade-in, sort of. With some impact that I got from... this is like the only time I'll ever use a moment kit on my main account in my life. I tend to never dig into here just because I'm like, you know... I don't know. For like identity's sake, like... for how I want my sound to sound, I want to source my sound from like very specific places, and usually it's not moment because a lot of people will source their sounds from moment, and it's like, well, I want to be different, right? And then start fading in a very simple fucking break. It's not that complicated. Where is it? Is it cut the same way? Yeah. You know, not super complicated stuff. I'm pretty sure this is some Baltimore break from the Twerk Nation kit. I have Jungle Jungle, but like, you know, it's just easier to find. It's at the top of my list, you know, whatever. Fucking do the thing. And we're compressing it a little bit so the transients are sharper, and then, you know, putting the gaming sauce on and EQing it afterwards. Simple stuff. Simple dimple stuff. And over here we got H-Box passing out.
Yes! Fuck yeah! Yeah, mother...
Again, dry as a bone, just high passed. Nothing crazy. And then the snare fill with a laser. It's nothing serious. For some reason, I EQ the shit out of the laser, though. Doesn't make that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things, but I did it anyway. And I'm doing the same thing with the car crash over here, where the part of the bass that hits is actually on the beats, and, you know, whatever. But then we get into build-up territory. You know. The pattern is cut in half and just basically playing twice as fast. And I layer it with some Porter Robinson chops because I have those. There is some, I forget what the channel name is, but where they would like break down samples and tracks with like, you know, cool graphics. And they're relatively short videos, but like that's where I sourced all these from. Well, no, I found the original song, which was, I think, an older Porter Robinson song anyway, and just found the samples myself and just kind of got them. You know. But, yeah, just fucking... I think I also put sound... No, I didn't. Just a slight EQ on them. And obviously I'm maxing out the stereo like this, as opposed to using a mid-side compressor, because I'm feeling very lazy. Dariacore is... Oh. It didn't click the first time around. I had to like wait for my brain to load up what the gimmick was. But thank you. You know, a clap build up as lazy as possible. I'm pretty sure it's just a 909. I don't know, but it was from a hardstyle pack, and it's now like in my default FL. Like I didn't change it from my default FL fucking template. Too Slimy pays homage to Michael Jackson. God. I also have a recent here that just starts everything. Jesus Christ. So it started out really loud, and that's how it starts, like clipping everything, so that when I put the balance in, I have more control over how loud I really want it to be. But this is some real Black Summer shit. You could skate on this. It's like a mini ramp. It's crazy. So, but the Reese itself, let me, Jesus, it's real distorted. Let me maybe start it from like here. Yeah. I don't think it's anything complex at all. It's a super saw. It's a unison saw with a German low pass and some drive in it. And I use a German low pass because it has just a bit fancier of a sound than like a normal low pass would. That's it. Just for a little bit extra tone. You know, but without the EQ, you know, it's a bit mid-heavy, right? So the idea is to increase like the the sub-ish, but not like all of it, and all the high end. So it sounds like that. The French low pass would sound like snails. Huh. I get it. I would use French low pass if I was feeling like trying a little bit harder, but I didn't really want to try that hard. And then I have a lot of vocals playing here. So first one is, it's this one vocal which I auto-tunes myself like a while ago. I would play the original song, like the original sample, but the song that this comes from starts with that, just starts with that straight up dry. So if I play it like in its original speed dry, then I'll get super claimed. But you know, there's a bit of processing on this. So again, we're distorting the hell out of it. Sound geyser. Ow. We EQ it, like mega high pass it. Still ow. We make it even louder for some reason. More ow. And okay, and then we start to actually EQ it in a way that's somewhat reasonable. It looks fucked, but it really gets rid of most of what is ow, which is like 3 kilohertz. And, you know, maintains the high end and maintains the actual like note stuff that you can really hear. And then I use this Dear VR micro plugin, which is meant to be like spatial audio, almost like binaural. And then I just have it spinning around your ears. It's pretty trippy when you play it like in isolation. But it's kind of just perceived as like a panning effect when it plays in the actual mix, which is disappointing. I want it to feel more like it's literally circling your head, but whatever. You can only do so much. So next is... So for this part, I want the vocal to be more of a background. So I have this patcher automating in. The idea behind putting it in a patcher is I was probably going to put some more shit on it, but then I decided I didn't really need much more shit. But it gets rid of what is ow and makes it perceived as like quieter without actually turning down the volume. And then I have this wet dry split with a delay that it's not being automated. It's just kind of on 8s, I think, which is a half note. And there's a bit of a trance gate playing as well before everything. That's like half mixed in. Just to give it a bit more of a groove in the background. And then the thing which is currently taking up the forefront is... Omegle by I forgot who. And I'm sorry that I forgot who, but it's, you know, very popular in digicore at the time. And I did this... I used this song already for I Am Not Carbine. I tend to reuse samples when I'm like, oh, I could probably do it better this time. I don't think it was better this time, but I don't think it was worse. And I know it's way pitched up from where it actually is, so it sounds completely different from like where it would be in the original song, and it's way faster, but you know, whatever. So step one is obviously a soundgodizer. You know, I'm chopping it a little bit to make it sound more cool, and like I actually like, you know, sampled it. And then we do whatever the hell this is. All this stuff that like makes it perceived as super loud, I just bring up. And then we make it a little louder. Also kind of distorting it a little bit, and then bit crush it. The high end's so messy you barely perceive it. But then I decrease some of the 3K again, just to make it a little bit less like overbearingly harsh. Yeah, super simple. And then I have this fucking for some reason. It's like I'm doing some fucking LFO tool panning bullshit. Wait, what? No, wait. And I'm also like ping-ponging the delay. And only one instance of the delay is playing. As in, like, I turn the feedback all the way down, right? So it, like, bounces around the ears in a nice way. Awesome. And then, can't forget the sound effects. I think this is the only time in the whole project that I'm using Bubble Up without, like... because I have, what's it called? Spectral, you know, as opposed to using this. So it's because I wanted this to sound more classic, I guess. I don't know. Super dry, no EQ. And then as soon as the explosion's about to start in the vocal, Roblox fucking rocket hit. Super classic. Okay, another reason I guess why this has so little tracks is because I was pretty aware that a lot of the things I was going to use would just be dry anyway. So I have a dedicated like dry, well, high pass, but dry channel to put all the sound effects in. I might have that for the drums, but I'm not sure. But I do know that that's half the reason why this is at 50 and not like 70. Not sure how the exact psychoacoustics. Not sure how about the exact psychoacoustics, but I asked Chad and it said that low pass automating the high end around 4K will make the sound like it's coming from behind you. I guess. But there's a bit more behind it, I'm pretty sure. I'd imagine there's a bit more behind it than just like, oh, if you like cut it at 4K, it'll sound behind you. But that's probably like half the way there. And then I have this fucking stupid shit. Oh, wait. There it is. Again, going in the unmixed section. And then for the pre-drop, it's a very arguably lazy, because I remember this was the last thing I did in like the whole track. Not even, I think it was after the outro, probably. Or it was the thing I did right before the outro, and by that time, like everything was made, right? So it's just an audio file I have on my computer. You know, I think someone suggested that I use it. I'm just like, I might as well, you know. But to me, I don't know. I just perceive this as like a lazy ass decision. It's like whatever. But you know, for some people, it's like a throwback. I guess for me, just because I just have used it before, like years ago, and like it's, you know, I vividly remember using it, and it just makes it lazy for me. But you know, most people don't have that context, so they're just hearing it for the first time in a while, and it's like, oh, peanut butter jelly time. Okay, I do have a dedicated unmixed channel in the vocals as well. which is pretty cool that I actually decided to follow through on my word and, you know, keep things organized in that way. Which is also where Hungrybox sits. And then I have this Guncock, as well as the Gwen Stomps classic. AI. Okay, this is probably unmixed as well. Yeah, it's like it's the tight, you know. So it just adds high end, but it's mainly unmixed. And then we get to the drop. We'll do part 1 first. So it starts off with you know, just some good old 16th note action. Very, I think this drop is kind of boring, personally. But, like, just because it was very simply conceived. It wasn't, like, there wasn't much thought behind anything, really. Any more than I would give, like, a slop track. And this is kind of a slop track. But first, it's just thick-ass bass. Which I'm pretty sure... Okay, yeah, it's just the shit my project loads in with normally. With, you know, the LFO and the chorus pitch at this fast of a rate to give it, like, a click in the beginning. With less of a punch, more of a click. 2 distortion. The noise... You know. And then I do my thing. I put it through this Maximus preset, which just flattens the low ends and nothing else. And then I EQ the shit out of it by mutilating the 300 and then getting rid of whatever this is and too much of the high end. And for some reason, deciding I needed to decrease the 3K by exactly that much. I couldn't tell you why. And apparently I'd do some shit later for the later drops. How is the music going so far? Well, it's a breakdown, so I guess the better question is how did it go? And I remember speeding through this project, it going well, and then only after the release did I realize, oh, I kind of don't like this that much. But, like, it's still cool, and we'll go into how it was done, you know, because I like showing off how the sausage was made. I'd imagine it might help people. Might as well study what you're doing for music so I can get better. I guess, yeah. Any questions, please ask, right? I do like answering them. And actually talking about the things that people want to hear and not just, like, everything. Because, you know, some things I go into detail about, some things I gloss over. And I guess it just depends on how cool I think the technique is. Because some things you just do for so long that they just become second nature, right? This is actually so insane. Thank you, WhatJack 5532. Jesus Christ, I can't speak. Leave a like on the stream, though. It'd be nice. That is my only request. So for this, I could have just done 2 oscillators in Serum, but I decided to do 2 separate synths, each playing a fifth apart. 1 step ahead. Awesome. Very, very, very rudimentary patch. It's 2 saws stacked on top of each other. It doesn't get much further than that. They're on linear as well. Like, I'm not doing anything fancy, like, at all. I mean, the detune of the higher one is a little bit higher than the detune of the lower one, which is like just what I do normally. And I don't have any OTT on any of my super saws just because I'm not a huge fan of the sound unless I'm making a very specific sound, like something like EDM related. And even then, I still avoid the OTT on my super saws because I can get the noise and the high ends with clipping anyway. And it sounds more natural and has a different character. You know, I think a cool way that artists are separated is like how their saws sound. The high 5 for 100 joules. Jesus Christ. My bot's not gonna fucking know what to do with that. That sucks. I don't have to figure that out. Make a new alert or something. But I guess YouTube has a bit system now. 100 joules. You know, the things you smoke in the bathroom. Right, so we clipped the shit out of the super saw sound thing. It's not really the shit out of it just because it has so much high end anyway. Is YouTube becoming Twitch? It's trying. It's doing all the wrong things, but it's definitely trying. And this makes it a little bit louder. Just a little bit. And then I get rid of the 300 to make it sound subbier. Which is ironic, because I'm pretty sure I high pass this anyway. Yeah. This makes it sound more soundgodizery, more OTTE, kind of. Just increasing the high end and the low end, and like, you know, a little bit of this, and I guess just vaguely touching all the other knobs. Were you able to get the money? Oh no, I mean for the alerts. I don't know how much of a cut I get of that. I'll look into it later. I'd imagine it's like a 65-35 sort of deal. I do know that YouTube takes more of a cut for things you pay for if you do that on mobile. I also think it's funny how it changes the font of the text, because it's not text. It's like its own alert that's not highlighted in chat for some reason. It's like it's meant to look like a message, but it's not. It's so YouTube. What the hell? Whatever. And then I'm playing a fifth over it. But it's a fifth plus 1 octave. Otherwise, it would be like this. Which is just a little too muddy, right? That works. And you put that over the bass and let the bass clip into it. Wait, no, it's not playing. Wait. Help. Okay. You know, it's a little dirtier. There's a lot going on, but don't really worry about it. You know, saturation, unnecessary amount of EQ, gain into a clipper, and then I EQ'd it after I mastered it anyway. We'll get into that. And I guess since we're going through this intro part before the drums play, let's go into everything else. So here I'm playing, again, stolen from I Not Carbine. Just straight up went into the FLP and rendered the shit out. Which is a sample from a Lou song. And some saws and some bass, from what I can recall. Slight high pass, EQ, and a little bit of a high-end addition, and some addition of the loud shit. And a 16th note LFO tool to make things more tight. Simple stuff. And then I'm layering it with a Porter chop as well, just 16th note, to further, you know, create that choppy vibe. And then I remember making that, getting super lazy with the vocals, and I just used this fucking thing. Which are some chops my friend sent me from a while ago that I have this in like 3 other songs or something stupid. I know I use it in, actually I don't even want to try to remember, it's gonna take me too much time, but I use it a lot. And this time around I did process the vocals like properly, you know, in air quotes. Nope, it's, oh hey, dickhead. Where I single band compress it. Pretty hard, actually. I put it on 3, so it lets a bit more of the attack through. It sounds like, I don't know, snappier in a way. And I have to decrease the gain before it hits the multiband compressor, as opposed to just adjusting the threshold of the compressor. I decrease the gain as it goes into it. I gotta change this preset, so I have to stop doing that. So I can stop doing that, but like, whatever, right? I completely squished the high end, like super squished the high end, and just increased the gain of it and leave everything else like kind of relatively low. You know. That's it bypassed. And then it's just like super duper squished, and then I just keep everything else natural. As natural as reasonable. You know, there's a little bit of compression happening, but like not too much. And I'd increase the post gain outside of that. What's up, Mars? Welcome. Thank you for the singular greeting. Can I have a singular like? That would be nice. I will barter with like every single person that joins this stream. It's my duty. slight big crush because I like doing that to my vocals. It's kind of my sound. And then I have an EQ and a de-esser. I think this is de-esser narrowbands, the preset in Maximus, and I don't really change it much. I'm so generous. I appreciate. Yeah, I'm so generous. I appreciate that. Jesus Christ, why am I like dyslexic? So it's basically increasing where would be the sibilants, where the sibilants would be, and just like other, I guess, loud shit is the only way I can really describe it, and like the high end as well. And then I put it through the de-esser to like tame some of the harsh stuff, which I don't really need to do because there aren't much sibilants in the vocal, but whatever, right? We then make it louder again with my patented Game & Sauce. Sick. And that's that vocal. Mad lazy. And then there's this shit which is for... When is that even for? Nerd shit 223. I end up not using it at all. Whatever. Sick. So it's not even relevant. And then this is a chop of a Justin Bieber song that I just have on my computer. I remember making it and being kind of lazy when I made it, and I would rarely find the use for it, but if you move around the chops, it's not bad. You know, it's not terrible. You know, you kind of hear that like gallop of one of the vocals, and then just what's the song Baby? No, it was I need to think. Bieber chop. Was it? I think it was Beauty and a Beat. It was definitely Beauty and a Beat. No musical. It was Beauty and a Beat. That's what that was. Cause I recognize because of the first note is a falsetto. The I need is a beauty and a beat. You know, that's where that's from. I can't sing that well. It's pretty high in the register. I'm sure if I voice train more, I can get better at that, but I'm not a singer. I just sing to help me voice train, which is some hidden tech. It's better for like, it helps like with control, and like, you know, maintaining it in general speech. So I pitch it way the fuck up, EQ it with what I call the fish EQ. Just because it looks like this. I guess this is where the fundamental frequencies are, like of the actual notes themselves, and Michael Jackson, Ariana Grande tech. And then I decrease some of the high end, which is pretty overbearing. It's pretty crispy. I'm trying to get back into singing, raspy as hell though. You could rock with that steez, you know, make it work. And then I put the louder thing on it again. Because of course I do. Very, very rudimentary. And I'm also layering a song called Secret Level, which I resynthesized the lead and put it over the original sample. And I just like chopped it up a little bit. And we are doing some EQ. High pass, make it a little louder. Clip it. You know. And a 16th note LFO. Thank you, by the way, something unfunny. A 16th note LFO tool to keep things nice and tight. This should be off, but it's on, so whatever. Doesn't really affect anything, as it only affects like 20 hertz. So if this was on like the side chain, it would sound really like shit, but it doesn't, so it's cool. It's not, so it's cool. And then I accidentally made this bigger. And then the EQ, which is increasing, I guess, this stuff to make it more audible. And honestly, this shouldn't be on, but I forgot to automate it, I guess. Let me play everything, see how it sounds. I definitely fucked up. I definitely meant to automate that in for the outro and just didn't do that and kind of forgot about it, which is fine, I guess, but it would have added a nice little ARP in the backgrounds. But whatever. And then the drop actually starts. And I hate these drums. I don't know why. Oh, it's because they're moment drums. That makes a lot of sense. Except for that one. I also hate this groove. I don't know. What is this fucking kick? Where's this from? Oh, it's from a funk. No, yeah, no, it's from Moment. It's from Moment, of course. And then the kick itself, because it's actually kind of terrible, unprocessed, I put a bit of a transient shaper on it at almost max speed so that, you know, it gives it that clicky sort of knock that you're kind of after for a kick like this. And just a little bit of EQ, kind of getting rid of whatever this is. It's Snape's. Jesus, what an OG comment. Hello. Welcome. Did you listen to Breadcore 2? If so, you might like the first 5 out of 6 songs. Because I'm breaking on the 6th one right now, and I personally don't like it except for the second half, but you might have a difference of opinion. I guess this makes it, like, deeper, just kind of shapes it a little bit more. That's the goal of that EQ. And then there's just fuck-ass snare, which I'm pretty sure I'm doing nothing to. No, I guess I'm doing something to it. I am giving it more of a click by taking the attack and just making it as fast as possible and then just clipping the shit out of it. Barely changes anything. I don't know why I did it, but I did it. And then increase the fundamental part and the high ends a little bit. I hate this snare. I hate it because it's not mine, and also it just doesn't sound like anything I'd ever use. It sounds like something that someone from like Hyperflip Hub would use, which, like, no offense if you frequent that server, it's just like, you know, there's a certain sound, right? Also, this kick is slightly stereo for some reason. I don't know what the hell is going on there. And then there's this stupid ass fill that I use all the time. Slight chop to justify its presence. Because otherwise it just plays like it always does. And then another moment snare. And I'm not using it like straight up. And yes, I did tune it, so it'd be in key, because obviously I did. I layered it with a V-dub snare because I wanted it to be more snary. I not really layered it, but I just kind of like put one after the other. And the keen-eyed among you might notice I'm on FL12, which is why I'm using like transient and generic, because I can't just simply crossfade them. That's my solution. And I'm just clipping it to make that ending part a bit more distorted for the most part, because the snare itself is distorted enough. There's barely any change. And this is doing nothing. I don't know why I added this. Again, it would give it more of a click, but it's already fucking distorted as hell, so it's not really doing anything extra. But whatever. When I become rich, I'm buying you 25. You could, but it better be the version with fucking everything. I don't want to not have Hermer or something stupid. You know, so you better be loaded as hell. You know, if you want that kind of disposable income. Whatever. Oh my god. I know this is off topic, but do you know Bone Sow Art? Making Jets radio sounding music for a while. I'm trying to recreate that for fun. My bad for the long ass comment. Oh no, it's fine. I read kind of fast. I used to do this streaming shit a lot, way before doing it for music. I don't know who the hell that is, I'm sorry. Sounds cool though. Long ass comment, 1 sentence. No, it's 2 sentences, first of all. And second of all, the padding makes it look like a brick when it's not really. And then we get into the actual everything else part of this, where I'm starting to play these saws. Which are, just, for me, lazy as hell. Like the chords that I chose, and I don't think I ever use this chord. But it's there. So let's get into it. So super saw number 1, right? Just because I kind of just picked a very sort of rudimentary kind of. Like I do that chord all the fucking time, all the time. If I wanted it to be cooler, I'd probably pick higher notes. Like that, but no. Did I shift click something? What happened? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay. But yeah, 16th note. A little bit of release, just a tiny bit. The higher oscillator is far more detuned than the lower one. Normally I would make this lower one a bit more detuned, but I chose not to for some reason. And the OTT is in the patch, I just have it off, because it's in the default patch that opens up on my FL. What's a consistent way to make good chords? I can't help you, and here's why. For me, when I'm making chords, it's all intuitive for me. I just kind of know what note goes where, you know? And I'm like pretty good about not picking like a low 5th, or even especially not like a low 3rd or something, because that's like really muddy. I haven't been in the stream for so long, gang. I know. I vaguely recognize your name, and I know you're an OG because you said it's Snaped, which is an oldie. You can kind of get away with this 5th, but not really. Again, like for mudded, I sometimes start with a 5th anyway, as like the first note in the actual chord part of the chord. And then I love my minor 7ths. I skip the octave always, and then we go to the add 9, and then the minor 3rd, sometimes, and then the 4th, or whatever this upper extension would be, like the 13th or something. That sentence was almost very bad. Was it? Okay. But intervals, I guess, is the thing I can tell you to learn. Like, what is a 3rd? What is a 7th? You know, upper extensions, things like that. Which I don't know if there's like a set. I mean, there probably is like a video that can just tell you, right? But you know, if you already have like an intrinsic understanding of harmony and like know what scale you're in, so you're skipping all like the random notes that just aren't really in the key you're in, that makes the process a lot easier. You know, you can find songs you like and steal their chord progressions if you are good at transcribing, which is a skill in and of itself. But I think having at least a little bit of background knowledge so you can understand the decision making behind those chords would help you a lot more than just simply stealing them, you know, because otherwise you're not really learning anything. You're just kind of like, oh, this sounds cool. Now for this chord, I think I just took these notes and moved them down an octave, because when you have all this upper extension stuff going on, when you change chords in a chord progression, generally, like when you go, this is too low. I'm very stupid for this. It should be an octave higher. Who's femming their bread right now? But I tend to, let's say we're in, I'm pretty sure we're in this major. Yeah, right? Yeah. Learning scales hurts. Learning scales helps, not hurts. The opposite of hurts, actually. So this would be the 6. You know, and like 6/4 sort of stuff, which is a lot of hyperflip. It's pretty easy to get away with this, like switching octave stuff because of the upper extensions. Though sometimes that can't save you. I'm gonna fuck around and find out stage of music making, so I just mangle it for an hour. You just go by ear. I went by ear for a long time, you know, and I understood like what was in the scale, what wasn't. But like what furthered my understanding was, like I think something along the lines of like just knowing that like if I wanted to play the major for this, I can count. You know, because you know that it's like whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, right? And then the relative minor would be just minor third away, which is 1, 2, 3. Who's proteing their JJ right now? You know, like simple, like sort of like little tips and tricks kind of help me out a little bit when I'm going through the notes that I want. But I know that there are certain things that are informed by like Midwest emo and some of the music I listen to. Like, let's say I take, which I think that's the 4. What key are we in again? We're in, which is, yeah. Yeah, the 4. Let's say I take a little music theory lesson. A chord that I like a lot is the 1 major triad, which if you're in like a minor scale, that's not your 1, that's like your 6, you know, because every scale you depict it on sheet music as major. So let's take a 1 triad, like a 1 major triad, and then put it over the 4. And that's a nice sort of, I think it's like a 7/9. Yeah. Nice 7/9, which is a good starting point for a lot of stuff. Which is kind of this, but with a bit more extra shit. There's that major triad, then we just added like, you know, which I didn't make that chord with any thought. This had more thought than this one. Because again, it's just these two just move down an octave along with that, right? So super light music theory, nothing crazy. Just enough to understand. Why did my chat tweak out? Is it because of the emote? I think it is because of the emote. That only happened on my preview window. That didn't happen on like my actual window. Okay, whatever. But some very light music theory just to be able to understand what it is that you're doing on like a surface level and be able to understand what other people do on a surface level. Then you can take from that with a bit more detail, with a bit more intention. But yeah, so Saw 2 is just a clean version of Saw 1, basically, where I had these 2 oscillators an octave apart, the random turned all the way down, and then you would move the phase around to get a different tone. Why the fish paste is it not actually like playing? Where? Oh, okay. LeBron just messy, your computer is too powerful. Well, it fixed itself, so get fucked. Because the oscillators are, you know, playing at the same time, moving them ever so slightly from each other, which is what the phase is doing, creates a different kind of tone when you know, do that sort of thing. And the random's all the way down, so it's always playing at the same time. You get a nice layered sound. Because oscillator 1 of Saw 1 is a bit less detuned, it creates a less detuned sort of sound than I would use. Did you use the LFO on the VST, or did you use a separate LFO VST? For what? This is, I manually placed the notes down. What you would do is you would place your chord, and then you would Alt-U, and then set it to quarter note, and then just decrease the result. If you want to do that quickly. Why is it Alt U? I don't fucking know. Why? Because I didn't want to use an LFO? I don't know. Because I wanted to shape the sound with the release knob as opposed to shaping it with an LFO tool. So yeah. But why is it Alt U? That's our greatest mystery yet. So the processing of Saw 1 is I tend to focus on the part of the frequency spectrum that appears the most detuned. Hey, rest in peace, Oliver Tree. I'd focus on that, and then we clip it. And it goes into another bus, which is doing some other shit, which we'll get into after we talk about this, which is the same thing, except the opposite, where I'm focusing on not the stuff that would be detuned in a detuned saw, but like the low mid bass and the high end. And we clip it a little bit, which barely changes the sound, honestly. And then we clip it, we clip those two into each other. And then we would EQ the result. A crazy amount of high end that I'm assuming is because the rest of the frequency spectrum is being taken up by vocals and... Well, you can actually barely hear these over the saws. This is not mixed very well. It's not my best mixing work, but it's mixed, I guess. And I'm not doing anything different for the vocals in this part, but I am introducing some shit. All right, I guess it's sauce, but it's not really sauce. So I mean, well, this first of all, you know. I have some shit going through the unmixed stuff, like this exhaust here, which I got from Cashmere. And I use it all the time. I spam it. And this laser, which is different than this laser. What the hell? Oh, you can't hear it. I think, no, they're the exact same, actually. Never mind. But it's, of course, it's hard panned left. It's not loud enough to hear in the final mix, but it's there. And then I have a hit marker playing on 16th notes to like add to the transients of the saw and all the other choppy shit that's happening. Increasing the high end of it. I did put it through what you can effectively think of as an all-pass phase, but it's just 8 OTTs in series that all are at 0 depth. The only thing that does is... Because I'm about to blow your minds, and you can do more research into this, but an EQ is basically a phaser, right? And when you split frequencies in a multi-band compressor, you're creating slight phase differences across the frequencies. And if you stack 8 OTTs, for example, you're multiplying that phase difference, or like adding to it each time. And so it creates like an all-pass phase sort of sound. It's very subtle though, but it'll make the sound last a bit longer. At least something like this. I don't really have a bunch of transient layers, but they work out to be a bunch of transient layers. These are meant to be more like melodic, but whatever. My emojis are selling me. Happens sometimes. Let me have this fill, which is, I think it's mostly Brawlhalla sounds. So I tried to look for like a really long like audio file of just Brawlhalla sound effects, but apparently this is a really long audio file of like a Brawlhalla sound mod pack, which makes the sounds more realistic sounding, I guess, or not realistic, but like, you know, more detailed, more theatrical. I hate that game. Get better. I don't know what to tell you. Were you like deep in like plat and you just couldn't get past, or like, are you like a casual and you're like, this is Diet Smash and it sucks? Yes, that's really funny. Well, something about me is that I've always been really bad at platform fighters, and I never got out of gold. myself. But you know, I got some swag. Like I could hang. You put me against like a pretty decent player who knows neutral, and I can hang. But it's about running a train on the people who don't really know neutral. That it's like a different skill. It's nice percussion. I'm jealous. It does take practice. Creative fill hard. Thank you. But I stole this from, or stole this idea from a song that I did before, Purgatory. Did I not call it Purgatory? Oh, I learned this fucking groove thing. Okay. Sounds way cooler there because it's in triplets. Or I guess. No, yeah, it's in triplets. But I just stole the idea and just put it here. She uses Ultra Kill sound effect. I've never played Ultra Kill, so I'll have less attachment to it, and I like putting me in my songs. You know. I was a Sora main for a bit. I suck ass now. Makes sense. I play melee. I hate Brawlholic just because I'd rather be ass at Ultimate with Joker than Orion. Well, fucking you picked Lance, so. I'm an Ember main with a Yumiko pocket because I used to main Yumiko before I made Ember, and I always had the broke version, so my Yumiko's like level 40 and my Ember's like level 30, which is absurd. But now I have the full version and I just play random. But I would only play with my friend or against my friend, like play with him ranked 2s or just play against him randoms, and then sometimes run mains at the end of the sessions to really settle it. But he doesn't really play Brawlhalla like that. Like he barely like knows like combos. You know, he just plays platform fighters and has good intuition and good neutral. But whatever. Like jump reads, dodge reads. You know, simple shit like that. Also like barely dodges and just kind of does aerial drift instead, which is not DI. It's aerial drift. It's different. I think Brawlhalla has a little bit of DI, but it's not the same as like Smash, where it changes the way you combo someone entirely. At least in melee. But it's like this, like a punch sound effect with a throw weapon sound effect with a get weapon sound effect with a melee gun cock and one of those punch sound effects again. And I think it's put through I didn't have to do this, but I chose to anyway, where I high passed it and compressed it for some reason to make it like a little bit punchier. Duskman Forever. Oh, you like wow. I remember playing Brawlhalla with my cousins. It was almost 3 years ago. It was crazy how good we got for a bit. I'm sure you were good. Sorry, I'm just, you know, it's always a story. You play with your friends, you know, unless you're like getting like crazy. You could get humbled real quick by stepping out of your ponds. You don't know nothing about the ocean yet, but that's just classic like fighting game stuff. And then a laser to end the phrase. Where is it? Fuck you mean wow. And then to end the phrase, to bring it to the next part, I do the moment fucking impact again. With the reverse kick.
Fuck you, man.
And then this part of the drop is not that different. I start automating in. I thought it was nasty at Ultimate when you hit Elite Smash and you got your ass whooped for 5 games straight. Yeah, try going to a local. That shit'll humble you. Because I played Ultimate when I did play Ultimate, like in high school. I played against all the high school friends, and there was like a high school hierarchy. Even stepping out of my grade humbled me. We did like a tournament, and I went like game 3 last stock, almost on a 3-stock comeback against this random green ninja who did not know what he was doing, who got creamed the next game he played. But I went to a local, and there was no chance. I don't think I took a single stock off someone, maybe like once, you know. Playing against people who play GameCube controller on Ultimate, which I don't know why you would do that. Personally, I think it's a worse controller. I think it's with a worse layout, but you know, some people want to feel fancy. How How many characters you need to learn? Yeah, you need to learn a lot of matchups in Ultimate. It's fucked up. To be fair, I was also a Puff main, so it wasn't any easier for me. You're in LA and it's crazy. Yeah, I'm in New York City, so it's also crazy here. You know, people are just nuts. But yeah, this part, it's worse. Yeah, it's fucked up. It's really fucked up. I picked the worst place to live, I guess. Well, I didn't pick it, but you know what I mean. But if I really wanted to get good, it would be a nice Crucible. But I didn't own a copy of Ultimate. I just played on friends' devices. That was the only, only practice I really got. Then COVID hit, so whatever. But then I started getting into Melee more than I already did. I was always like a spectator of the game and just watch like GR Smash stuff and like Awesome Sauce videos and Archive Sauce videos. But then I started like watching tournaments and I'm like, oh, let me just download Slippy. I never thought to do that. I think I downloaded the game a while ago to try Anther's ladder. And I just didn't get around to doing it. But was always too young for its prime. What the fuck? That's kind of a shit mentality. Fucking Hacks Money started when he was like 12. But what's it called? What's the appeal? The appeal, I guess, is if you're looking for something more out of your game, something more personal feeling, something with a bit less like what I call magic, like that you would get in Ultimate. It's a crucible for self-improvement because of the amount of precision it takes to do a lot of things depending on the character you pick, which every character has its own precision required to execute. Some more than others, of course. You will find this out when you play a Marth who just spams F smash and walks around and like does a chain grab, and you're like, okay, this can't be why I got into this game. But there's a bit more hit stun with the combos. There's more freedom in the movement when you unlock that freedom by practicing, and you get a bit more self-expression if you choose that. But also, you can also just pick Fox, get a controller that has Z jump, and then win. Just learn how to win. And take all the fun out of it, which it's versatile in that sense, and then you can still lose to someone swagging out. There's a lot of cool little movement techs that allow the game to look pretty cool. It's super fast at a high level, and just even at mid level it's getting faster because everyone's getting better. So like you can play online now for free as long as you procure a copy of the game, and that allows you to play with anyone from anywhere in the world. Rollback netcode, low ass latency, not quite CRT, but it's close depending on your ping, and it's just a different game. It's a different beast, different community, a welcoming community relatively. The online side not so much, but the local scene, which is where Melee thrived and shit like that. The skill ceiling is, I want to say it's infinitely higher, but I think it's a different building entirely with its own ceiling, because Ultimate's just a different fucking game. It's apples, oranges, different things you have to be aware of. You have to be aware of like a crazy matchup spread and a lot of random shit that can just happen. But also, it's a little more linear, kind of, the way you would go about killing someone, Whereas there's a lot of defensive options in Melee that you have to account for. Like not just DI, but like crouch cancel, slide off, sometimes L canceling matters. SDI, teching or not teching, and power shields, out of shield options, shield dropping, ledge dash technically, dash back, straight up. As a defensive option, like all these sort of things you have to account for, that when you do get that crazy combo on someone, you have to kind of read their DI depending on the combo. But when you do get that crazy combo to death from like a low percent, it feels crazy because you have to make a couple of reads to get that to happen. Around 8th grade, a kid got a switch to Meanie Friend and people played a bit after school. That's fire. I played during lunch. I also hate Villager. I remember hating Villager with a passion when I played Puff and Ultimate. But welcome to the stream, the Pangen. I am breaking down a song, but I got sidetracked by talking about one of my favorite games in the world, Melee. So this part, it's pretty simple. filled with things that I do all the time. You know, 909 hat, the same hat with some release and shit on it. They're both dry, no processing on them whatsoever because I was very lazy. But this sort of kick thing, it's a clap. Very simple trap clap. I can tell you what pack that I got it from, although it's in like everyone's pack if you download like any trap kits. But it's Brando Beats Eclipse. Another tech that I learned by accident from making I Am Not Carbine, where I just added a bunch of bass to a clap and I'm like, wow, this sounds sick. Virtual Purgatory, hello, hi. I feel like I never fucking see you. What gives? So I don't have this on. I gotta remember that. So first I start with peak controller so that later I can decrease the release of it when I distort it. So we distort the hell out of it by taking all 4 of these bands and just, you know. You can see why I would like to decrease the release of this. It's been a month or so since I've been in the stream. It wasn't intentional. It happens. We get sidetracked. Oopsies. One of the most accidentally clicked buttons of all time. And then I, for some reason, decide to put the stereo effect that I have, that I made, where it's a chorus with the rate turned all the way down, the delays turned all the way down, and then the depth moved slightly with high pass, because you can click this and change it from low pass to high pass at wherever this is, like 200 something. What are your favorite games to get all achievements in? I don't really have games like that where I get all the achievements in. I know I had a phase with Minecraft because getting certain achievements gave you emotes on Bedrock Edition. But I don't really play single player games like that. I'm mainly a multiplayer game kind of person. I might do it for Bully, Scholarship Edition specifically, because I that's like the last single player game I've played and I haven't played it in a while. I don't know. I think the last time I like drank too much, I'm like, maybe not. Because I'd always play it like drunk or something. It's because it's one of those games. I don't know. I always watched people's playthroughs as a kid. I got into speedrunning vaguely, not like running it myself, but just like watching it. And then I stopped watching content about it so I could like forget a bit, so that when I actually played it again, I could, you know, I could feel fresh again. Try Atlas games. I might. I'm playing a lot of Dark Souls lately. I hope that's going well. It's probably why you've been gone for so long. But I decided to add this stereo effect to this, which only slightly affects the sound. You can barely tell that I put stereo on it. Which, if I really gave a shit, I would, like, you know, do something like that or put like a mid-side compressor on it, but I didn't. Bully is such a classic. So I think I said that already. Fuck! But, so I have this balance here, which is what this is linked to. That's kind of the whole point, is to decrease that like really long bassy tail and, you know, tighten it up a bit. Pretty nerdy stuff. I like P controller a lot whenever it comes in handy. And then just increase the clap part and then the high ends. And then that's it. I love Persona, but I never got to finish even one of them. I'd imagine I would also love Persona, but I didn't ever play it, nor do I have a console I can play. The last console I've ever gotten was the 360, and I know I have a computer. But as of recent, the money's been hard to come by. Support me on Bandcamp. But, you know how it goes. Just a dialed amount of low end, you know, just enough, but also enough high end that you recognize that it's a clap itself, you know. Sometimes I would like layer it with like some kick sound, but I didn't need to do that this time around, which is nice. I know the pattern slightly changes to be like, you know, and then I add in just more stacked fifths. Increase the octave and then the fifth up from there. which creates a suspended 2 over the chords, is what that would be in theory terms. I'm pretty sure the chord progression is the same. I just, you know, changed the way the samples sounded to accommodate for the change in arrangement. You can barely hear the supersaws as a result. If you can, and if you have the time, play 3 portable on an emulator. I could. I have a lot of things that I want to like check off the box, you know. On a PSP emulator, I see. I could though. I definitely could. I also wanted to see if I could get more achievements for Midnight Club LA Complete Edition, because it's one of the games on my 360 that I definitely played a lot. But as of recently, you know, I've been more into like motorsport and like racing games in general, and I feel like I could do it better than I used to. Despite it definitely having some sort of like rubber banding or whatever mechanic, and I hear that it's easier of a racing game than the previous ones, so that kind of takes away from the achievement of it, but like whatever. I haven't touched that in a while though. I feel like I can fuck with FH6. What is that? I'm very sorry. Oh, Forza Horizon 6. It's good for the scene. Sorry, I just haven't seen it abbreviated. Wait, I just realized I didn't play the saws like properly. Oh, you can definitely hear it. Okay, never mind. Not big at the racing game of Mario Kart's a good ass time. That's a different kind of racing game that I'm also pretty good at and fond of because of my Mario Kart history. Which is also why I'm such a good like frat drinker. Cracking your single player games is always an option. Lol. But the thing with Forza Horizon 6 is that it's good for the wider appeal of like sim racing and racing games in general. Like you can definitely play it a lot more casually, and if you like cars, it's good for that too. If you just like driving around in an environment, it's good for that. But if you also like maybe have a vague interest in racing games as well, that can help facilitate that interest, you know? Which I think is good. I think it funnels people into like actual sim racing if they want to try out like maybe like iRacing or Gran Turismo or, well, maybe don't put those in the same level, or like, you know, Assetto Corsa or something like that. But it's good for the scene is what it is. I haven't played it myself. I don't think my computer can run it, nor do I want to play like on gamepad, nor do I have the money to buy it. But you know, it looks fun. I know what it is. Yeah. Personally, the rules that I played with my homie were we played Grand Prix mode, and we would drink every 3 races and not every 2, which would change the rotation for every single Grand Prix you picked. So like counter picks mattered because you would either drink on race 2, race 3, or races 1 and 4. You could not drink on the first lap, so it's not like just a chugging race. There's a bit more integrity behind it. You could either choose to just straight up front run for lap 1, or you know, bag to get a good position for lap 1. So you set yourself up for lap 2 nicely. Then you would drink either all in lap 2, or you know, split it between lap 2 and 3, or do whatever the hell you want. And then over time, you just learn the tracks a lot more, learn the shortcuts, learn when's a good to bag, when's a shot gonna come, like in probability's sake, and you know, fucking all that like vaguely competitive Mario Kart shit came along with it. And we start developing like counter picks and stuff for each other. And at our peak, we finished like 114 beers between both of us in like a week. It was absurd, but early on it definitely wasn't like that. And then after that, I like stopped drinking for a few months because it became a lot. So anyway, I'm also playing, I added in one more vocal. It's the fucking Google screaming ad, which everyone hated when it aired, and everyone completely memory hold. But that was like a thing for some period of time. And I just thought to include it because I thought it would sound cool. And it's like in key too. It's fun. So it's mono when it comes in, so I want to make it less mono with the same preset as before. which barely changes anything until I add this mid-side compression patcher presets, which is a default FL patcher preset. You know, FL has some pretty neat patcher presets, and they have even more neat patcher presets on later versions. Because you can use patcher in the channel rack and like put multiple synths and stuff in there, as opposed to having to like route it to a track here and like send MIDI to it or something weird. But yeah, patcher, useful. Also on 25.2 or 3, there's a drop-down option called Patcherize All, which is super useful. I don't have that luxury. I have to fucking drag shit in one by one, and if I have a mid, and if I have like a mix knob on 50%, I get fucked. Is what I do. You'd have to make like a split and like, you know, route the dry and like the wet and bullshit, whatever. Then we clip it, so it's all nice and distorted, and then we added mad high end, and then an LFO tool on 16ths. Simple stuff. And then I add in, where is this? Is this from bass drop sound effect? Yeah, I have this sound effect, bass drop SFX. I'm pretty sure it's, no wait, meme bass? There it is. It's that, but for some reason I get it from this. Which is a slightly more distorted version. I could distort it my diddly damn self if I wanted to, but I just didn't. I think I did a reverse kick before this too. Yes. Just the reverse kick I always use. And is there any EQ in this? There probably is. Yeah, like a slight roll off of the sub frequency, so it's not like super crazy in the sub. Made it a little quieter in the EQ itself for some reason, and I decreased the hell out of 300 to make it sound subbier. You know. There you go. And pink guy.
Fuck you, man.
Laser reverse kick. And then it's this quote-unquote footwork, which is not footwork at all, by the way. It's just... This is a ripoff from Pride Month, during Pride Month. And I don't know why I did it. I don't know. I guess I wanted to make a song that sounded like dariacore, and this was my avenue for doing that. And for some reason, it just resembled Clams Casino, and so I wanted to use this.
Yeah. Clams Casino, nigga. ASAP. Where that bass? Where that bass, Clan?
Wait, I do have it. Why did I fucking... Wait, hold on. Let me... Just for myself. Just... I needed... Hold on. I thought I didn't have that vocal sample in the... Fucking... God damn it. Wait a minute. I'm gonna kill myself, bro. I could have just did that! But I didn't, so... Whatever. In game. I'm gonna jump off a cliff in Minecraft. So, okay. Nothing fucking revolutionary going on here. We got a kick, which I'm pretty sure is from Kill Big Head, because I have that pack. And I'm cranking the gain way up, because that's how I used to do it back in the day, when I made beats with this kick all the time. And then I'm cranking the part of the kick that's like very kicky. And I'm also putting the clap through it too, for some reason. Basic trap clap. Where is this from? Oh, okay, yeah. It's from the Yeet Can kids. Awesome. And then for the perks, again, I think it's going in the same channel. It is. I chose not to, like, do this. For some reason. Because I'm just like, oh, I want it to be cleaner. But yeah, same pack. Nothing revolutionary. So it's the same. I'm using the same chops from earlier. Which sound nice with this groove. You know, whatever. Simple stuff. There's not that many sounds in this section, but because, you know, there's like just enough sounds to convince you that it's like a big part, right? Like this vocal. I remember somebody saying in the Hyperflip Hub server that when they tried to split this vocal from the song itself, they got a really lossy, fucked up signal, which is true. That's what I got too. Because the song itself is really distorted, so most vocal splitters have a tough time with that. But, you know, we make do, and because it's being shrouded in drums and shit like that anyway, only the important part is heard, so that's all I really need. So I processed this like I process most vocals. I didn't want to go Soundgoodizer route this time. I just wanted to actually, you know, make it sound decent. And so we start that with compressing it. Actually, not that much. You can see the line isn't really moving that much. You know, because the vocal itself is already quite compressed, so we don't really need to do too much to it. And then we put it through a multiband compressor, do the same thing. We squash the high ends and bring the volume back up. And then we bit crush it. And then we EQ and DS it. You know, the DSR is doing something, just not a whole lot. And they make it a little louder. And then I'm adding in a couple of things, not just that vocal, but you know, fine, I'll add a new instrument. You can tell how frustrated I was when I was making this part. Frustrated that it came down to this. So this is just, you know, another 2-layer super soft sort of deal with no impact. I did want to make it like a but I guess it just sounded better without for some reason to me. Tube distortion. It's 3 in the morning for me. Honestly, this is a great stream. I'm going to try to get some sleep. Thanks for the tips. Of course. Be sure to catch the VOD if you want to learn some more, or if you think that'll be useful to you. But I do hope you sleep well. I also hope I have a great rest of my stream. It could suck. I don't know. A bit of release, and one of these things, for some attack, I guess. And I put it on mono. So it didn't like bleed into itself. And some EQ. To like put some emphasis on the detune part and like the bass, but not like the sub bass, because there's already enough like bass present in your ears. You know what I mean? Like you don't really need too much. And then I'm adding Porter Robinson chops again. Which I spam these chops. I did this shit for the Pride Month flip during B-Day month 23. Where is it? Oh, of course I clicked too fast and the media player fucking freaks out. You can hear it in the background there. But I did this chop differently than I did it afterwards. And I like the way I did it afterwards because this one just has an octave for the vocal above the chord that it's holding, and the other one is like a sus2 where it's the chop itself is on like a different key than all the other ones to achieve the effect. But like whatever, this one I just kind of got lazy and just put it there because it wasn't the same notes that I wanted it to be in, so it was like, you know. Porter sample, indeed. I spammed that shit. And then I put a song from Lemon J in here. Because I think Lemon J makes some good music. What the hell was that for? The original rip of that vocal doesn't sound that lossy. It sounds even lossier than the original rip because the original rip has so much like noise. Where is it? Oh, let me find the part. It has just a crazy amount of noise on it. Fucking dickhead, shut up. Let's get this started on it. It's a fucking absurd amount of noise. So I put a spectral gate over it and then rendered that out because the spectral gate, if it was in the project, like turned on, it'd have a lot of latency and I just kind of can't be fucked. So it's a bit lossier, but the important stuff is audible, right? The important stuff is audible, which is the important parts. Because in the final mix, you can barely notice that. Because all the noise that would be in the acapella is now taken up by all the noise of everything else happening, right? Oh shit, hold on. Dickhead, why the fuck? Oh, it's because I... You know, it still sounds nice and cool and spectral and all that. But yes. Hello, Trix non-top 287. Took me a bit for my brain to properly compartmentalize that into separate words. But hi. Indeed, flip. I hate this song. But you know, I gotta reveal how the sausage is made, right? So the way I process this now super lossy vocal is the same way I process everything else. So single bend, wait, no, fish paste. Super heavy compression this time around. Like flattens. Just because otherwise, like, I think the result was... super, like, all over the place, right? So I just decided, fuck it, we're flattening it. Why is it so big? Okay, so... oh, let me just fucking... boom. Alright, awesome. And then we put it through the multi-band compressor again. Bring the volume up, squash the high end, like flatten the high end. More than it's already been flattened. If you could believe that, which is almost redundant. I don't even need to do that, but I do anyway. And this time around, I do try to actually like even out the mid. Normally I would leave it natural, but that only applies to vocals that are like normal and not all spectral and weird and fucked. And this isn't an attempt to like bring the fundamental and like all the note stuff more to volume, right? But this is where the fundamental really is, that low end. Like if you just played like a sine wave that matched the note, that would be where that sine wave would live. And that's really where the juicy stuff is at. I'm squashing the hell out of that too to bring it up to volume. You know, real compressed. And then because the high end is all fucked and lossy, never mind. I thought I bit crushed it, but I guess didn't because I liked the spectral sound. I don't know. I always learn things about my thought process every single time I go back into these projects, but I guess I chose not to really big crush it too much, which is fine. It sounds all right anyway. And then I put it through an EQ. With a focus on fundamentals like sibilants and whatever this is, just like mids. And then put it through a de-esser. Wait. Which is doing something sometimes, you know. It helps. Do we make it louder? Because of course we do, and then we EQ it again. Almost doing the same thing as the EQ was doing before, but this time with a bit more of a focus on like the post like 10K stuff. Oops. And then that's that vocal. Just playing that over the Kamo vocal. Besides drums, it's just like 5 elements, which is pretty good. And as for the impact for this part, again, car crash, bubble up, but reverse. Not complicated at all. And then we get into the next part. Cool. So this part, I guess I'll go over the keys section first. Make some shitty keys section, I said to myself. It's pretty. Because it has to be. So, I did this all in one pattern clip because I was feeling really lazy. What the hell? What's the channel rack again? F6? Yeah, F6. So I wanted to use Sakura for this, but which is why the track is named that, but I decided after like I think fucking an unnecessary, I don't know how many minutes, but it was 2 minutes. It was way too much time spent scrolling presets. I just went with one that I use I used to use a lot more often, but I don't really find a use case for it as much anymore. That's how it sounds normally. Sounds nice and old and kind of warbly and, super cool. And so to process it the way that I wanted it to, we start with a multiband compressor. With a focus on compressing the low end and just making it as loud as possible. All that fundamental stuff. And then we can EQ it. Which, it does require this EQ to get it to sound bassy at all. Otherwise it just sounds, I don't know, sort of, right? Like, so we cut around 300. This is like 250, but whatever. But like that's where that note is. That's super low, sort of what I'm after. And then, we're increasing where it would be detuned, like the sort of kind of to make it more like airy almost. And just a slight tuck in the mids. Just a little tuck. And then we put a delay on it. Obviously, I'm going to do a wet dry split with my delays because I'm a fucking nerd. I'm putting it on 6. So it's like, I think it's dotted quarter notes or something like that. I don't know. Something dotted, maybe. I always forget. I wish it said it here and didn't just have numbers, but whatever, right? A normal amount of feedback input, a bit of cut knob, and also this EQ. Which is meant to like, just the walkie-talkie part of the frequency. You know, which just kind of adds a bit of a layer to the chord and, you know, gives it a bit more room. Super cool. And then I'm layering it with Diamond Dragon. I never get to use this because I'm rarely fucking making anything where I need a pad that's pre-made for me that sounds specific. Usually I'm just making something in Serum with like a sawtooth, you know, but if I need like a very specific sounding pad or like something stringy, which this has a lot of, then I'll do that. This is more chorusy. And you'll notice I don't use any bass notes for this because I don't need to. It doesn't add overtones that I like enough for me to justify adding bass notes into it. This would be a 1 major 7 over 4. For those keeping score at home. And then this... Oh, would this even be? That's a 4. That's a minor 7. And that would, I guess, be an add 9 or a sus2. Yeah, just, you know, I'd call it a 4-7-9. But it's in this chord progression, it would be the 6 because we're in this key, you know. Just because it sounds nice, and I don't have to change so many notes for the chords to chord themselves. The EQ is only slightly increasing the part that sounds like kind of chorusy. And then obviously I'm just increasing the shit out of the stereo with this knob. I guess because the goal is for it to sit more on the sides. Usually when I'm making stuff stereo, I tend not to make it more stereo than it is mono. But I just wanted it to sit in the sides. Which it does nicely. And then I have this sine thing. Which is perfectly dry. I mean, there's a bit of high pass on it. And then I'm doing that delay effect manually. Why? I don't know. I just thought it would be cool to do. And I did it, so... There's that. And then I'm fading in DL breaker. Where is it? Oh wait, I guess I'm... yeah. What? Oh, because the alt only does it for that. Oh wait, I'm so confused. Hello? Why is it not fucking playing? Right. Okay, whatever. I'm like cutting it so that the break evolves a little bit. So it goes like... where the third rotation it plays just the full DL breaker. Not the full DL breaker, but you know. And if you don't know what DL breaker is, then you haven't looked through FL's default sounds enough. But you know, it's just one of those default FL loops. It's the first one. And I figured it'd be kind of a meme, but like no one really recognizes it when they first hear it, which I think more people would have before, but you know, I don't know. People don't really be going into default sounds like that as much, and they're kind of less iconic in a way. And then, you know, I'm just layering this fucking clap thing. Because whatever. Easy build up. And then the vocal, which again, there's not that many things playing this time, even less than the section that came before it.
Trust me, I get so much.
Pretty simple stuff. Just you know, I got my frequency shifter usage from Eliminate. When I would like watch like audio combat stuff and like watch him like, you know, do some very simple like riser thing with a frequency shifter, and it is a pretty free way to create movement, right? Hi Kyle 8676. So this is K-Miller's peroxide, because I was just looking through my things to sample folder and I'm like, oh, here's one, and then I just used it. You know, whatever, right? Good song. I like it. And that's the only part of the song that doesn't have like drums that sidechain the fuck out of the vocals, so the vocals still come through clean. And I'm pretty sure that's why I looped it like this, because the rest of it starts you know, drumming out, and then it bleeds into the acapella in a weird way, and it's like, yeah, whatever. So again, single band EQ, single band compression. Nothing like crazy compressed, but like compressed enough for it to be considered pretty compressed. And I didn't turn this down. I should always do this by default, because like half the latency in this patcher preset is, most of the latency from this patcher preset is from the attack knob being increased of this limiter, but my fucking dumbass, whatever. I think sometimes it's useful to stack latency a little bit if it's going into a sidechain, so that you don't run into the problem where the sidechain doesn't start soon enough. But whatever, right? This time around, we're squashing the mid end a little bit, the mid band a little bit, but like mostly the high end again. Just perfectly flat. Not perfectly, but you know, flat as shit, like a board. Just a little bit of compression for the mids. And just a tiny bit of compression for the fundamental part. And we bring the gain way up, and then we bit crush it. You know, whatever. And then we're EQing it twice for some reason. First, to get rid of stuff that's like conventionally annoying, as well as the abundance of high ends. So it's basically still almost as loud as it was before, but it's a little more bearable now, right? And then we EQ it again, which I think it does the same thing. Okay, cool. Versus like, you know, that's pretty piercy, you know, so that like kind of tames it. And then we put it through a de-esser again. Which is doing something sometimes, you know. Mainly it's meant to mitigate sibilance, but whatever. Then we turn around and make it louder again. But this time, you know, holistically louder and not just like EQ louder. And then we have this frequency shifter and this bit crusher, which is what's creating the you know.
Trust me, I get so much.
And then I have them both, the mix knobs of both.
Trust me, I get so much.
As opposed to putting them in the patcher preset and like mix and like automating the mix knob with the patcher preset. I got a little lazy and instead decided to just link both of these knobs to one automation clip, which you can do. You can just right click, link to controller, and then select whatever automation clip you want, and then boom. They're both now controlled by that thing, which is great. It's the same way that you would link a knob to a peak controller. And I guess I have another EQ on here, as well as like a little bit of a mitigation of the high end. And that's that vocal.
Trust me, I get so much.
And then it leads into the first half of the last drop.
Trust me, I get so much.
Fun fact, it's not like this in the release. It's more like this. And I wanted to render this version out, but I got lazy and just didn't do that. But whatever. So, I wanted to get Hispanic for this section, and Hispanic I got. Alright, we're using a kick from a dembo pack. And then we're using a snare from a dembo pack. The kick going into the unmixed with some high-end channel. And then this is where the transient shaper actually does its fucking job. It creates a bit of a click in the beginning. You know, so the attack is just that much harder, which is nice. And then we add some high end and EQ out some of the shit that's kind of necessary. Bring in some more of the fundamental. Cool. Very simple. And then right, so the bass is one of those fucking bubbly sort of deals where the knob is automated to the chorus pitch, and then I like dragged this until it made the octave, so I just fucked it up. I think it's 38.5. I think it's 38.4. What the hell? 38.3? Awesome. Yeah, so it's up like an octave or a couple of octaves. Not one octave obviously, but way more than that. But yeah, the same waveform and basically the same patch, but I just added a bit of release and then did that pitch bend shit. That is the same patch as the intro. I think no, the same release too. Yeah, whatever. Because fuck it. You know, sort of. You know, and then I'm adding in just a simple. I think it's the same synth as earlier. Well, it derives from the same synth, but I think I cloned it so that I could put it in a different channel. Just to have a lot less processing on it, and then I don't know why I didn't just fucking high pass it, but whatever. And less release, because of course. And then it's the vocal. I made a stream this time. You did. Hi, Hydro2635. Welcome to the second half of the breakdown stream. I wanted, like, you know, a pretty Hispanic pilled sort of sounding vocal chop. I don't know if I achieved that, but either way, I chopped just a little bit. You know. Are we cooking? We're breaking down, as per the title suggests. This is track 6 on the EP that I dropped kind of recently. This is just Tweaking Together, a song that I would always just kind of add to songs whenever I'm feeling bored and uninspired, which I was at the time, but like I still wanted to do something Hispanic with a pretty basic vocal chop, and I found a basic vocal chop, so like I would take this vocal and then we process the way we usually do, single band compression. Pretty heavy this time, with a good bit of attack. so it sounds all nice and snappy. Multi-band compression. For some reason, targeting the mid-band as well as the high band. Normally it's just the high, but whatever. I didn't increase the gain this time. Don't know why. Yo, dickhead. A little bit of a big crushing. Very faint. You can barely even tell it's happening. And then just a minor EQ with a de-esser that's kind of doing nothing now. Then we make it louder. And apparently, we're clipping the hell out of it here too. So we're adding in a lot of high ends after this louder thing. So that it's the first thing that gets distorted when I send it through this. So it sounds nice and crunchy. And then I have delay with the input volume being automated in sometimes. The feedback is on 0, so 1, I guess. And then I'm EQing the wet signal, so it's like different. And I guess I didn't do this automation clip correctly because I needed to do a wet knob automation or just a whole like mix knob automation for the patcher preset anyway. Because I'm stupid. And then we high pass it again. Cool. Very simple. Oh. And I'm pretty sure the impact is just an exhaust. Well, it's actually 2 of them, because I needed to make it louder without making it unique, so I just shift-clicked and then duplicated it onto itself. And then it's that part of the song where I start adding in shit from earlier because I can't be fucked to find anything new, and I also think it fits as like a callback, sort of, where I'm adding the Bieber chop from earlier. And then you know, but I'm also adding in some shit here because without it, it would be like kind of empty, right? Oh wow. It's just a slight variation from the chop from earlier. Awesome. Revolutionary. I'm so smart. And I'm also adding in hit markers everywhere there isn't drums. Which you can't really hear, but it's there. And I guess I also should have mentioned that on this bass, it is the same patch with some slight variation from earlier, but I am adding in a little bit of an EQ for drop 2, which has even more of a decrease in 300 and even more high end. Fucking absurd. And then like this, which is just a high pass. You know what flavor of country club this is. That's a funny pun for later. I think now is later, actually. Yeah, that's all that section has to entail. Then it goes into I never said it sounded bad. I'm just saying it's lazy. You know? And I also tend to be like, oh, I did this fucking shit, this fucking random fucking shit, whatever. Because I do have that sort of cavalier attitude towards this kind of music when I'm making it. I know that this part I was frantically shaking my leg in a cafe because I was off the goop, very caffeinated and excited to put something very Dominican down. Everything earlier is mad, just kind of lazy-ish, you know, as lazy as I can get without literally not trying. Like, trying enough, right? I also think it's just the worst song on the EP. And it's not bad, it's just compared to everything else, it kind of lacks that flavor, except for the second half. Again, from here on out, I say again as if you were here earlier, but you definitely weren't. Unless you were and you were lurking. I can't assume. I don't have, it's not like fucking Twitch where I have a list of people who are here. Either way, welcome. But no, I'm just like, you know, I know what I was thinking when I was making this, and what I was thinking wasn't much. You know? I was just kind of putting some sounds down to get the track over with. Which, laziness breeds creativity. Absolutely. That's all I have to say about that. But yeah, then we get into... honestly, a pretty lazy transition. I just kind of let the vocals play and then just... this is just an extension from, like, the chop itself. It's not really anything, like, super creative, but it doesn't really need to be, I guess, right? Vocals are the same, but all the magic is what's above it. So, let's get it started. I'm doing the... oh, it plays so much quieter when you preview it. The same, like, kick clap sort of deal from earlier in the song. But for this, because I figured it sounded good. Because what would normally happen on the merengue song, which is what this is meant to impersonate, it's meant to be like merengue, almost, right? Is like, there are certain instruments that kind of sound like, shaker-esque, but not really. It's like this like metal cylinder that you would strike with something that looks like a hair pick. I don't know what it's called, but you would play that like on beat to somebody like slapping a bass, which creates like kind of like kick clap sound, you know, among other things. And that's just what this is meant to emulate a little bit. And we have this sort of, which again, from them bow packs. I could have just done that, but I didn't. Whatever. I guess I just wanted to decrease the tail of that. And if I'm correct, they are going into, yeah, the unmixed with high-end channel. Really, the only thing keeping this from extending out to like 70 tracks is putting the stuff that I don't need to mix on one channel and not like giving it its own for some reason. Which I would just hit Control L and everything that I add, so it's like a pretty bad habit of mine, but whatever. It doesn't make anything like super hard to find. And then bass. Very merengue flow, all right? Which is why I named the patcher preset that I added, you know what flavor of country club this is. Because if you go to DR and you go to Mickey D's, you can get country club on tap, first of all. Second of all, there's this flavor called merengue. It's mad good. I don't know what it tastes like, but it's mad good. And that's all I can tell you. Now... what this is doing is basically just adding a shit ton of attack to the bass without like making what's it called, without making a whole new patch. It hits hard in the subs. I guess that's good. I did EQ everything after the fact to be less mid heavy and a bit bassier, but it does kind of, I don't know, sound a little bit neutered compared to other things in the genre. But also a lot of people in the genre don't know how to mix, so I don't know if I should be comparing myself to that. I don't know. I just felt like a lot of the songs are like overbearingly loud. Some of them like would reach zero loops for no reason. The only song that I wanted to hit zero loops was, or lufs, or however you pronounce it, was fucking hookah, which is, you know, that was the point, right? Hookah, the EQ'd version of hookah hits hard because it has just the right amount of bass. Hookah, or is it? Damn it all to hell. EQ'd. You know. Right. Media player doesn't take kindly to playing quickly. Sounds crazy. Super sick. Anyway. bass. So we start with a compressor. No, we don't. We start with a clipper. That's what this is. It's super hard. Hookah is super hard. A lot of songs I've listened to before are not mixed well, but yours are mixed pretty good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do tend to take pride in specifically in my mixing because I feel like a lot of people who get into making hyperflip or anything like that just have less experience in music in general before getting into the genre. But I was going on a whole mixing arc before I discovered dariacore. And then I discovered dariacore, and it helps you mix even better because, like, I tried so hard to get songs to sound, like, good and clean and loud and big and this, that, and the third. And then I discovered a post on Twitter, which was, like, it was a comparison meme between somebody with a lot of equipment for a shooting competition and then, like, that Turkish dude who just uses his eyes and just holds the pistol out there. And the top half was, like, all this Pro Q fucking multi-band, all this bullshit, you know, fab filter, and then the bottom half was a soft clipper and only a soft clipper, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just try that, and that changed the way I leveled everything. Super useful knowledge, because less is more sort of deal. So after the clipper, I put it through an EQ to kind of roll off a bit of the unnecessary sub and the unnecessary bass, because we got enough. Right? And then we compress it again. I put it on 3 because it lets enough of the attack through to, you know, give it that attack. And I like turning off like this and like the line so I can see what the waveform actually looks like. And then I, you know, tune the release to just be right on the money where I want it to be. So, you know, you get this look. Which clips into the master quite nicely. And then we EQ it again after the fact. Which a lot of people will tell you to not EQ after compressing. But like, I do a lot of things unconventionally, for better or for worse. And this EQ was meant to just mitigate that singular note. It was very targeted. But here we go. Super cool. And then I love this part so much. I'm telling you, this is my favorite part in like most songs I've made, just because it hits home. It hits home. It really does. So I'm chopping this sample a little differently. Never mind. I just shortened it. And then I'm pretty sure it's the same Supersaw patch. Yeah, it's the same patch. But the way the pattern is, the reason why it's like this is because it's meant to mimic like horns, you know, that would you normally hear in a merengue song. Specifically El Beeper, which is what I was referencing for this. I know it's kind of a generic example, but it was what was on my computer, so I'm just like, whatever. And I would play a beeper, but I feel like I'd get super claimed. You know, whatever. And then the real magic of this section. I've never made anything so Hispanic in my life. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I flexed that muscle. It's just, where is it? So, oh shit. So it's relatively simple. The only thing that changes is, I think this note, no, these two. You know, to fit the chord it's over. I don't think you could play this actually. Maybe you could. I don't know. Edits, unmute. Right. And then, well, the piano I'm using, actually, I'd probably say it's key zone with the release knob almost all the way down. If you turn it all the way down, you'll get a popping, and you don't want that to pop. It's really annoying sounding. And I tend to add a shit ton of high end to my pianos. A lot of the time, whenever I need to. In this case, I need to for that sound, because normally you'd be stabbing the shit out of the keys when you're playing this, which can give it that like high end sound. And so I'm kind of trying to mimic that. And then we can press it with some ample attack to let the attack through, and make it sound nice and snappy on 3, which helps that specific goal be achieved. And then I guess we're clipping it a little bit for some reason. For a little bit of that crunch, a little bit of that flavor, and then we're decreasing the stuff that's kind of annoying, adding more high ends. What is this? Oh. What is that? I think I was gonna do a lower octave, but then I just decided against it, but I kept the duplicated pattern there anyway. And then I'm using the same vocal sample from earlier. And then we bring it all the way back to the intro. The merengue part, fuck, IDK how to spell this, I'm a fake Dominican, is the patcher preset I used. Where I'm pretty sure it's just an EQ and an EQ. It's decreasing what is generally annoying in the unnecessary high end, but also adding high... I sometimes do things and then undo them directly after without really realizing. And then I just keep it anyway because I think it's funny. So, there's that. Which brings it back to the intro. Then we're playing the Bieber chop as well. Which you run into the problem of redundant notes, and it takes away from the effect of that vocal being in the forefront, which is kind of annoying. But like, whatever. You ever thought about doing a Bishu battle? No. But you could talk to Kirby's about that. Kirby's is about that life. I don't know, I'm not really a huge fan of doing producer battles like that, just personally. I'm pretty bad at making stuff under pressure and like at speed. And I feel like it'd be like a poor representation of my work, and it would just be for, I wouldn't really get known as an artist like that, kind of. Like people like vaguely know of Nettie from Audio Combat from Eliminate, but it's like, past that, it's like, oh, I don't know. I don't think it would be fun enough to justify me doing it for fun, and I don't think it would be good promo enough for me to justify doing it for promo. So it's kind of just like, yeah, whatever. Yuffie started showing up in the Besh battle. She's been going crazy and is ranked top 3, might be first. Top 3 and it ain't 3 is what I'm hearing. Sounds sick. High related title, you are at the tail end of my breakdown. And then I add in a chop from the... I don't think is it fun, or I think it's 1. Oh yeah, there it is. Why breakdown? I'll go fuck myself then, I don't know. For no reason. For no reason. I don't like educating people or anything, or talking about the music I make and how I make it, because some people who don't organize or mix the 50 tracks will find it useful at all or anything. Fucking Christ, dude. Come on, why breakdown? This part is a fucking mess, I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot going on. If I really wanted to be like nerdy about it, I would like pan these chops, these Bieber chops specifically, like left and right with like a with like an LFO tool or something, but I didn't. So whatever, right? And then I'm adding this, which you cannot hear in the final mix. Maybe like super faintly. Now that you know it's there, you can detect its presence, but like you hear it from start to finish prior to even knowing it's there. It's, you know, it's not there. I feel like that happens a lot where like sometimes in breakdowns, when you break stuff down to its individual components, you actually hear them talk to each other, but hearing on a first listen, it just kind of sounds like song. Does that make sense? I don't know. Yeah, right? Okay, cool. And then it's outro time, which is some kid talking about a drawing of a hamburger helper or something, or just a hamburger helper in general. I don't even know. I just found this randomly when I was looking for evil hamburger helper on DuckDuckGo, and then one of the image searches came up with what was apparently a fucked up thumbnail for some shit that some kid made. I don't even know what he's saying. But I just, you know. But it sounds like he's saying the N-word twice, which I know he's not. I absolutely know he's not. But I don't know what he's saying other than that. And, you know, just fucking. Nothing revolutionary. Nothing serious. If anyone here watches RPS, Formula One stuff, whatever. But, that's the whole thing. No leads. No leads. And mainly samples for the synths. Like 2 bass patches I cloned 6 times for some slight variation. And a pretty lazy drop 1 drum groove, except for the second half of drop 1, which is just simple 4 on the floor, like. So the master, which is important. So the way I master is I tend to focus on the loudest part of the song. Jesus fucking fuck. Without it,
Fuck you, man.
it's still leveled pretty fine. It's pretty good, you know. But of course I gotta, like, you know, clean it up just a little bit. So step 1 is I take this limiter and I just put the saturation knob all the way down, and what that's doing is just kind of squishing everything together, you know. It's like taking a soft clipper and like doing this, kind of. And, you know, it helps the bass clip into everything a bit more, so it adds a bit more grit, and it's nice. But it does decrease the gain a little bit, which sometimes you might want. Sometimes you don't want the shit to hit fucking 2 lefts, but, like, whatever. And then after that, I put an EQ on to decrease 300, so it sounds subbier, decrease 1K because it's annoying, and decrease 3K because it's annoying. What was the voice clip? What voice clip? Like at the end? I forget. High Phase 1 Kavya. What a name. And then I'm increasing the gain and sending it into a clipper. So that I make up for that gain loss. This is the same clipper, but it's normally just in here. But then, after I rendered the track out, I felt like, you know, it was overbearingly loud compared to everything else around it, and I wanted to, like, do a bit more matching to, like, get it more in line, get it nice and not super bassy, but still bassy. And so I did a slight change to kind of, it's my Valorant name before it got false panned for harassment. You sure it was false? So I kind of slightly roll off like post 10K, the high end, I slightly decrease around like 8K, and I slightly decrease around 1K again, but like a general more cut than like a more, as opposed to like a more surgical one. So it goes from this to this. So it's just a teensy bit more dialed, you know, which is the whole goal. And that's it. That's the whole thing. That's all of it, the whole 9 yards. I hope you enjoyed that. Because I will do another one of these breakdown streams tomorrow for during B-Day month. For this thing that I just recently put out. For fuck's sake, Windows Media Player, please. Oh, I did the panning wrong. But yeah, that, which is my best hyperflip. Not my best work, like, period. I think that's still, the crown still goes to either Dead Cat or, like, I don't know, I have a soft spot for Hookah just because of how goofy it is. The intro to Purgatory is really good. But no, either way, it's some of my best hyperflip work, I think. Like, straight up, you know what? It's my best dariacore work, because that's what it is. It's just dariacore. It's a flip of during Pride Month, right? So I think it's a lot more akin to dariacore than hyperflip. And it's quite good. And I would like to go into, you know, how I did it, because I know I didn't do any of it on stream except for the outro. Not the outro, like the last drop, which is just distorted ass kicks. I'm back on my bullshit.
I don't really feel like it.
You know. But yeah. So look, if you're not in the Discord server, join. Might be nice. You could find some like-minded individuals in there. You know, post the music, get some feedback. You could give yourself a role to be notified for these streams, so you don't have to rely on YouTube's shitty notification system, which I think fucking sucks, and a lot of people think fucking sucks. So if you agree, you know, consider it. I have a SoundCloud, I have a Bandcamp, which is the most direct way to support me, the Bandcamp, because YouTube, especially if you're on an Apple device, a mobile device of any kind, will take a large cut of your donations. It's fucking annoying. But yeah, I'll be live tomorrow at midnight Eastern, and I'll see you there. Thanks for sticking around. And yeah, I'm gonna go drink a lot of water now because, oh my god, my average view duration is 727. When you see it,